Now keep his boy's name out your fucking mouth. Hello and welcome to KamenRider Blackman. Today we are not just doing a review, but we are also doing a review on the anniversary of when this movie was released. And so today we will be discussing the 2017 Power Rangers movie. Man, I still remember when this movie came out in theaters. It was the day after I did my final spring musical in high school. I saw this movie the next day with Thomas. I think he wore in costume for it. I didn't. But it wasn't a bad movie. And honestly, by now, this movie still holds up. And I know online, I've seen on some sites, or just in general, that this movie does not get a lot of love. Honestly, I can't think of as to why. But instead of the negative, let's just get into the movie as a whole. But first, a couple more fun facts. One, this is the third theatrical release since Turbo Power Rangers movie. But unlike the first MMPR movie and Turbo Power Rangers movie, it's not non-canon with a couple of details from the show or canon to the show. In fact, this whole movie alone is a reboot of Mighty Morphin. Obviously, because why not Mighty Morphin? Mighty Morphin's the most well-known thing ever, so of course it would be a reboot to Mighty Morphin. But the fact alone that it's a reboot, just whole new characters, retelling the same story that we all know, but making it all a bit different. And so, with that said, this review is going to be a bit different. A bit less of following the story and going over what part happens after what part happens, and more of talking about the characters, since the characters are the movie. But I will at least explain the first scene. And so, the movie opens in the Cenozoic era with the Power Rangers defeated, and Zordon the Red Ranger is the last one standing. He buries the power coins right before the Green Ranger, Rita Repulsa, kills him. And to keep Rita from winning, Zordon has his robot assistant, Alpha 5, project a meteor shower to come to Earth and kill him and Rita, and by proxy, the dinosaurs too, just so no one wins and the powers are safe. Conveniently enough, the suits are literally the first thing we see. So let's talk about the aesthetics now, because I have a few things to say. So, first off, the suits. The only helmet I do like is Red's. Everyone else is a bit too alien-esque, especially since they're all supposed to be motifing dinosaurs. Like, I almost would say that Billy is somewhat close, but he still feels rather alien, especially when all the other dinosaurs are Mastodon, Saber-tooth Tiger, and Pterodactyl. Like, I really don't see it in the helmets there, but the suits are pretty fine, and you especially see where what would be the power morpher there, since for whatever reason, and I'm gonna get into this later, you guys know the toy morphers that were out in stores that this movie was promoting? Yeah, they weren't in the movie. What the hell? Like, I don't get that. And like I said, I'm gonna get into this a lot more later. But another thing I can touch on too with the aesthetics is the one weapon that's ever shown in this movie, and that's the power sword. Like, literally, the power sword is literally the only weapon seen in this movie. And in stores too, you all remember this, they were promoting the Power Sword and even selling them in different colors. It made me believe that, okay, they're all gonna get a bladed weapon like that. No, just red. Everyone else gets nothing. Like, what the hell? This movie can even promote the other weapons? Why not? The Power Axe is literally one of my favorite weapons in Power Rangers. But no, we instead just get the alien looking Power Sword. Ugh. And so now, let's get into the movie with the characters. Starting off with Zordon, played by Bryan Cranston, to which we all know from Malcolm in the Middle and Breaking Bad. Bryan Cranston did a good job as Zordon, but man, was this Zordon a prick. He was just an honest prick. But it's not like he doesn't have his reasons to not be a bit grouchy. Like, for starters, I don't know if you could say that he died or something, but but Zordon in this movie is basically Mr. Belt, where the best way to, it's like, how do I put this? Zordon in this movie is kind of like Mr. Belt. He's not trapped in a time warp. His consciousness is instead inside the ship, the command center ship, because I guess that's the only way Alpha could save him, at least. But considering that Zordon caused the dinosaurs to go extinct and the Z-Wave in space, no matter what the continuity, Zordon has a problem with causing mass murders. It's like, did anyone ever think about that? Like, maybe Zordon just has a thing with causing mass murders? Like, he's recruited kids and fighting his own wars, like, for how long and whatnot. Just, that's my headcanon, at least, that Zordon has a thing with mass murders from killing the dinosaurs and all of evil in its space. And so Alpha finally did something to have him knock it off. But yeah, Zordon in this movie, he's kind of a grouch. Mainly because let's start off with the very first thing. Zordon has no faith in this team whatsoever in this movie. All he wanted was all Zordon wanted was for the Rangers to be able to access the morphing grid just so he could come back to life, be mobile, have a body and whatnot, just so he can take care of Rita himself. Like, he was just using the Rangers like a bastard. And it's like, dude, not like, and I get why he thinks like that, but it's like, dude, not cool. Especially when you need their help. Like, couldn't even be straight with anything. That's just rude. And while we're at it too with this movie, how to morph 2 is honestly kind of impossible. Because here's the thing. Like what I mentioned before, like the morphers that this movie was promoting and sold as toys, they're not in this movie. They weren't written in. So the only way for the Rangers to morph is on an internal level. Like, they have to have a complete bond and trust with each other to access the morphing grid. I find that to be a bit of a missed opportunity because for so long, mind you that they're on a time crunch too. Like, they're not able to morph for so long that it kind of just makes you think, why not just build morphers and access the morphing grid that way? Like, literally, because anytime they can't morph, they gotta go to training and get either knocked around by putties or fight back. The point is, they can't morph for a bit, and it would have been a lot easier had they just had morphers. But yeah, while we're at it here with Zordon, let's actually talk about this movie's interpretation of the morphing grid. It's kind of like what we got in Dino Fury, where it's energy in a way, but in Dino Fury slash Cosmic Fury, it's like looking into the morphing grid is like looking out into space. It's like there's stars, constellations, and whatnot. It's like actually looking at space. Here, it's just looking at cosmic energy. So it's like for this type of movie, yeah, it would obviously go that type of route. But the morphing grid seems a bit more mystical in a way. Like you really have to be chosen to be able to see it or even possess its power. And that was honestly quite a choice. But yeah, back to Zordon in this movie. He tones down towards the latter half of the movie once he realizes, yeah, okay, I shouldn't have been an asshole per se. I have no choice now but to trust these kids with doing what I failed to do. But yeah, I definitely think that back then that Zordon was a bit strict. And he actually is because dude, you're borrowing teenagers to do a job. Actually, first to do a task that's a bit impossible, which is try to make armor appear on them. How does one just do that without morphers? Just saying, Zordon. But now that I'm done about Zordon, let's go on to honestly the best character in this movie, and that was Elizabeth Banks' Rita Repulsa. She knocked this right out the park, dude. She was honestly the best character in this movie. One, her acting was scary. Like, I was so scared of her in this movie. And she had all the best lines, too. Then her lines honestly weren't too cheesy because she was just so threatening. But in this form of the mythology, Rita was formerly a good guy who is now after the Zeo Crystal to create Goldar, who in this movie is a giant winged monster made out of gold. Wow. Just wow. Shoot, I remember that the Zeo Crystal was a part of this movie, but I forgot how much depth they gave it. Like apparently on other planets there are Zeo Crystals, and if she had that power, she can just cause general chaos. Shoot, it's nice that this movie expands on some theories from the show that's never answered or explained at all. Like, what was the conflict with Rita 10,000 years ago that had her imprisoned, and how she had the green power coin? Like, all the explanations aren't too far from the imagination and are all fair sounded. Like, for example, Rita being frozen in ice in the middle of the ocean, I can buy that because that's realistically more grounded enough to believe as opposed to two idiot astronauts just discovering a space dumpster and opening something that they had no business opening. Like, here it's just Rita was discovered and she most likely was going to be properly disposed of because she's a corpse in ice. Then she breaks out. I believe that. Everything happened all by accident. And honestly, I much appreciate and prefer that. Because now that I think about it, that trope is a little too generic. Like someone finds something, opens it up, and oh no, Great Evil is released. There's too much media of that out there that's just so really, especially when after watching this movie now, you really think about it. How many times have we seen that before? Just, hey, let's open this. Oh no. That's just me at least. But let's get on more about Rita. She was a good villain. She was scary and she had no issues, honest to God, killing anyone. Like, I didn't get all the chills when she pulled up. Like, I didn't have all the chills when she pulled up on Trini, but I did have chills and was scared of her. Well, one, when they all decided to just fight her and she kicked all their asses. And two, when she killed Billy. Like, literally, she says, after learning about where the Zeo crystal is from Billy, she says, Zordon won't respect me if I don't kill at least one of you. And one shoots at Billy, then drowns him. Like, that. I'm sorry. And the fact that the Rangers are there, straight up restricted against their will, just watching him die, that is very terrifying. Especially if you think about what if that was someone you knew. Just, they were shot at and drowning to death, only for them to come back up a corpse. Like, that is terrifying. And all while that's happening, Rita is just casually strolling away. Like, thanks. And you all will be dead in like a couple of hours. That terrified me so much. Honest to God, Rita was a terrifying villain in this movie. And I loved it. Seeing her just be so dirty and carnivorous, even killing people. Anytime she was on the screen, I feared for myself. Alright, so if we have a moment now, let's now talk about. Well, this is just one thing small. The putties in this movie. I don't like how they look. Like, they're just generic looking rock monsters. I think one had like a sign stuck to them at some point. I didn't like them. They were just. I'm not even comparing it to the original designs. I just think they didn't look good. They're just generic looking rock monsters. Like, ugh. Like, they couldn't even look like the great leader at the end of Stronger. And so next, let's go on now to our heroes. Billy, played by R.J. Seiler. He was in. I actually quite like Billy in this movie. Bit of a. I don't know what's in. I don't know. I would say a firebug, but he plays with explosives because his dad used to be a miner. Okay, first off, a couple of things about Billy. One, he's an autistic superhero. And two, not only do they acknowledge his autism in this movie, but also the fact that he lives in a single parent household because his dad died. And one thing that him and his dad always loved doing together was going out to his job because he was a miner and they would just go out in the mountains seeing whatever they find, which is how they all ended up finding the power coins. But with Billy, he really quite likes. I guess he's quite inspired by his dad's job of being a miner, considering how much he plays with explosives. Like, literally, another scene of this movie, which is like a few minutes in, is all the Rangers, well, the Rangers being in detention, and how Billy got in detention was his lunchbox exploded. But with Billy as a character, he was phenomenal in this movie. RJ Seiler did a great job. It's like he had so many funny moments. And not only that, he was really the heart of the team. Because keep in mind, he was the only one, he was actually the first person able to morph. And shoot, why he was able to morph is because of how much he loves his friends. And that's so sweet. And God, the fact that, I'm sorry, I still have chills because out of all the characters in the movie to have died and revived, it was Billy. Like, bruh, I'm sorry, Billy was such a sweet kid. He doesn't bother anyone. The fact that Rita just killed him right there and then, that was savage. That was really savage, and it shook me. But God, what else did I like from Billy in this movie? I guess another thing would be his friendship with Jason. But other than that, yeah, Billy was the heart of this team. And shoot, good guy. And he doesn't swear. That's another good thing. He does not swear. I wonder, are the powers worth talking about in this movie? Because once the five of them find the power coins, they do, I guess immediately after they get hit by a train, they now have superpowers. Nothing too special, just super strength, well, I don't know about super strength, but super agility, I guess, super strength, or just I don't know. They were just completely empowered by the power coins. To which, by the way, the power coins in this movie, they were quite an interesting choice to make because they look more like medals than coins because of how big they are. Honestly, I would have rather they figure out how to morph literally with the power coins as a substitute for the morphers, as opposed to just sit. Look like we're about to fart. Nothing. Damn it. Zordon said we gotta go to the pit. Okay. But next. These next two characters, let's talk about them more together because honestly, Billy, Kimberly, and Jason were the ones more at the forefront. But these next two, I have much to say about them that's kind of the same as well as apart. And they are Zach and Trini, played by Ludi Lin and Becky G. They both don't get a lot, but they both do get enough. Like, both of them are reckless. Zach, admittedly, is a bit more reckless, but they both do have heart. Like, outside of his friends, Zach has his mom who is sick and potentially dying. And honestly, if she was to ever die, he feels like he would truly be all alone. So, this group really does do something for him. And for Trini, I she one thing, well, first she makes it clear that she's bi or pansexual, but she hates how her family always sees her as different, like because she's so different, she's not normal. Like they want her to be normal, and for a teenager, that freaking sucks and could honestly be hell. So I like how personal. Actually, no, I really like how really personal both Zach and Trini are. While Billy's the heart of the team, Zach and Trini are both the personal side of the team because they are all teenagers. Being a teenager is not a picnic. They do all have their struggles, like Jason and his dad not seeing eye to eye, Billy and his autism, like Kimberly with, well, her former friend clique, which we will talk about. Honestly, we might as well talk about that right now with Kimberly. So, Kimberly, played by Naomi Scott, I liked her in this movie. Other characters definitely did get my attention more, but I appreciated her in this movie. She I liked how vulnerable she got when she thought she was holding the team back when really she wasn't, and she got that reassurance from Jason. To which, by the way, a good portion of Kimberly's whole thing in this movie is she, one, knocked a dude's teeth out, and two, kind of sent a racy picture of a girl out around school. And her story throughout this movie is being so guilty about it that she feels terrible. But but Jason basically tells her she knows she's not a bad person. Also, can we just talk about the kiss that got cutted out of this movie? There are a couple of scenes in this movie that actually gets cut out, and the kiss is one of them. And not just the kiss, that one scene during the training montage where both Kimberly and Trini were out in a restaurant playing around with like this one last piece of food. Like it's that one scene in Kung Fu Panda where Master Shifu is keeping a duckling away from Poe. And dude, JDF and Amy Jo Johnson are in the booth right next to them, just watching them, then goes back to minding their own business. That scene got cut, and I was like, oh, come on. Why? What? Why not? That scene got cut. The kiss got cut. Like, what the hell? Like, seriously, what the hell? Aw. But yeah, Kimberly, I appreciate her. I like it's like everyone really serves a role on this team, and Kimberly is mindly cautious. I wouldn't say the mother because she didn't really act so motherly, but she was really the cautious one of the team. And honestly, we all need that. And shoot, just throwing this out there, there are good emotional moments in this movie that makes me believe these characters because these heroes are they're teenagers. Like it or not, teenagers are kids, and kids don't know any better, but that doesn't mean they don't feel bad. That doesn't mean they don't have emotions. They're not fully developed yet, but they do have heart. Like these characters are teenagers with attitude, and there are different meanings and definitions for attitude. But yeah, good movie. Honestly, what do I think is one of my favorite emotional parts of this movie? Definitely Billy's death. And definitely Billy's death because it was just scary. Aside from that, the campfire was actually pretty good, with everyone revealing their guts out. I appreciate that. That was nice. And so now, let's bring it on home with our last character, Jason Lee Scott, not a martial artist, but a benched football player, played by Darcy Montgomery. In the movie, aside from the movie basically opens on him pulling a prank, stealing another school's mascot. And yes, this is the scene of the jerking off a bull joke. And honestly, I just laughed. I'm being dead serious. I laughed at that joke. It's been a long time since I've seen this movie, so literally just seeing that and memorizing it on the spot, it made me laugh. Like, God. Literally because one of the friends mistook the cow. No, one of the friends mistook the bull for a cow. God, Christ. Well, I actually want to talk about another thing about this movie. This is actually quite a star-studded movie. Like, looking back on it, like, yeah, there's Becky G, who is a famous recording artist in this. Naomi Scott, which, if you're a Disney kid, you should recognize her from that original Disney Channel movie, Lemonade Mouth. But who else is in this movie? Elizabeth Banks, she was in The Hunger Games. But who else? I want to think of another person. Jason's dad. Yeah, Jason's dad. He was in The Office as Pam's ex-fiance. Yeah, it's him. And so, yes. Now to Jason. Jason in this movie is... Honestly, Jason in this movie is what I think people expect from MMPR show Jason. He's stoic. He's low key. It's not like he was it's not like he was a natural born leader. The position was just chosen. No, the position was just selected to him and he took it. He took the position and really he owned it. Like, he was the one who stood up for his friends once he realized that Zordon was just using them, and even told them the truth, but still encouraged them to go out and take on and honestly to kill Rita. And when Billy died, he felt the most responsible for it. Like, I believed him as a leader. Like, obviously, Jason from the show didn't see much trials and tribulations like that. But here, it's nice to actually see a leader. I don't know if I want to say struggle, but see a leader feel that weight and responsibility. It's like, that's the best way to describe it. Other than that, Jason is selfless and always willing to stand up to others, which is how he met Billy, by standing up to him against some bully who deserved to get slapped the shit out of. To which, wow, what irony, for that to come back as to how they defeat Rita. Like Rita versus Megazord. Here's Rita flying. Bitch slap. Sure. Whew. Yeah, so, those are the characters. Should we talk about the final battle, basically? I don't know. The final battle is basically Rangers versus Putties. They summon the Zords because this isn't the show, so fuck the rules. And use their Zords to take out the Putties. And while we're at it now, let's, I guess, talk about the Zords. And so, the Dino Zords in this movie, they are pretty alien. And it looks like I gotta remind myself that a mastodon does not have a million legs. Because, wow. The saber-toothed tiger 2 is, in a way, kind of freaky. Like, when I look at that, I don't think saber-toothed tiger. I think something else. Something a bit more alien. But as for... Honestly, I think the most decent looking Zord is possibly the pterodactyl. Because it looks the most like a pterodactyl. But here's an interesting idea, too. Like, the T-Rex actually looks like a T-Rex. It's like, it's not like from the show where it's an early concept of a T-Rex where it actually stood up straight. Like, no. It would make sense in this movie that they got what a T-Rex actually looked like right. But now, let's talk about the Megazord. The Megazord is weird. Like, the Megazord's a bit weird. Honestly, the weirdest part on the Megazord is the head. Everything else on it is kind of weird. I think what's a bit off about it too is how metallic it is. Because they're trying to figure out what part is what piece. Because I know the Mastodon and the Triceratops are the legs, but the saber-toothed tiger being like the lower half, that doesn't feel right. And how are the arms come about? I'm confused on that. If it's from the T-Rex, sure, but looking at the T-Rex now, I sort of, or I'm trying to see it because of the cannons, but Megazord's a bit weird here. But yeah, for that final battle, like once they go through all the putties and they're fighting Goldar, whoa, that was that. Talk about heat. And when they came up to form the Megazord and stabbed him out, that'll do it. And so, that is from everything. Okay, I feel like I should explain the more of the movie there, so it's not kind of half-assed. Okay, yeah, or at least the final battle, at least. Yeah, it's Goldar versus the Dino Megazord. Dino Megazord takes out its two swords from the pterodactyl and stabs out Goldar. Rita gets bitch smacked into space, and yeah, that's the end of the movie. And another JDF and Amy Jo Johnson cameo where they take their phones out to take pictures of the Megazord, because honestly, that's just something JDF would do. But yeah, this movie, it's not a bad movie. It, honestly, for being 7 years old, it still holds up. It's just a solid film. It's different from the show, and honestly, this is the type of tone I would want from the show. Because here it worked out so well. It wasn't cheesy, it wasn't corny, it wasn't campy. It was a little campy, but not too much campy. Because, hell, everything else was still taken seriously and was mature about itself. This is the type of tone I would want to see in the show if Power Rangers was to come back with like a new season. But, sadly, this movie ends as if it was setting itself up for a sequel, with Rita still being alive and Tommy being name dropped. But unfortunately, the license wasn't renewed, and this is all we got. But for what we got, I'm not disappointed. I do like this movie. I think I just like this movie. So with that said, thank you guys for watching. Please do not forget to like, subscribe, share this video, tell your friends about KamenRider Blackman, and while we are at it, look forward to our next review, which will come out in April, and I will hope to get through the whole show. King Oja. The next review is going to be the recently completed Osama Sentai King Oger. And so with that said, I'm fully aware that the show is completed, and I would appreciate it if I got no spoilers. Because honest to God, when I was watching this show, when it was airing, I didn't get around to finishing it. Like, I left off on where the Sixth Ranger was coming in, and that's about it. But I would like to watch more of this show, because everything with it is so interesting. But with that said, thank you guys for watching. Please do not forget to like, subscribe, share this video, tell your friends about KamenRider Blackman, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.